man knows what he wants.
Common. The beginning is always misleading. It's gentle, unassuming, almost too calm, the kind of calm that makes people who've watched him for years lean forward instead of relaxing. His quiet has never been the kind that signals peace. It's the kind that signals possibility. The possibility of devotion or disappearance, and the world, conditioned by his past, has learned to treat his softness as a forecast, not because he is malicious, not because he manipulates, but because history has shaped the expectations wrapped around his name.
I heard you've been even out there talking about marriage, Karen. What's that about?
Before Jennifer Hudson ever sat beside him on a talk show couch, people carried assumptions built from the women who came before her. The echoes of old relationships clung to him like a familiar chord progression. With Erykah Badu, the connection was cosmic, electric in a way that makes poets dream. Yet when the current that held them steady shifted into something requiring maturity, he faded instead of fought. With Serena Williams, the respect never waned, but respect alone couldn't anchor a relationship that demanded emotional consistency. And with Tiffany Haddish, the world watched a romance full of laughter and affection end not through chaos but through quiet surrender, a conversation in which he declared their time complete, even when she didn't agree. Each separation was peaceful on the surface, but left unanswered questions floating beneath. Why did he leave when things were stable? Why did the endings always feel like exits rather than evolutions? Why did no relationship survive the moment when love required labor instead of ease? So when Jennifer Hudson entered his life, a woman with depth carved from survival, not heartbreak, people didn't see her as a new beginning. They saw her as a countdown. She was too secure, too whole, too grounded to fit the script they had rehearsed for him. Then came the interviews.
I should be married. It will be to Jennifer Kate Hudson.
Common didn't speak about her the way he spoke about anyone else. His voice softened, his face opened, his guard lifted. He talked about partnership instead of romance, about peace instead of passion, about possibility instead of convenience. And the more he affirmed her publicly, the more he called her his happy place and hinted at marriage, the more suspicious the world became. To fans, his transparency wasn't reassuring, it was alarming. Because for Common, emotional eloquence has always arrived right before the retreat. This is why the rumor, the claim that he no longer liked Jennifer, didn't need evidence to spread. It didn't need footage, it didn't need receipts, it only needed his past. People weren't reacting to who he was with Jennifer, they were reacting to who he had been with everyone else, and so the lie rooted itself, not because it held truth, but because it echoed a rhythm people assumed he couldn't escape. What they didn't know was that for the first time in his love life, the rhythm was changing, and Jennifer Hudson was the reason. Jennifer Hudson does not enter a man's life the way most women do.
In due time, if it ever gets to that place,
When two people come.
She arrives with the weight of everything she has lived through, not as baggage, but as wisdom. Her presence carries an authority that cannot be faked, shaped, or diminished. Even before she speaks, she communicates one thing clearly. She has already survived enough heartbreak for several lifetimes, and she will not volunteer for more. Losing her mother, brother, and nephew in a single day did not make her harder. It made her clearer. It stripped her of illusions. It sharpened her discernment. It taught her that love must be chosen with intention, not impulse. So by the time she stood across from Common on a film set, she was not a woman searching for completion. She was a woman who had already rebuilt herself and required any partner to meet her at her highest level of self-awareness. That alone disrupted the narrative people expected from Common's love life. Jennifer was not enchanted by his charm. She was not disarmed by his philosophy. She was not impressed by his history with brilliant women. She approached him slowly, measuring his consistency, not his charisma.
I know what purpose is, and I feel like this is purpose right here.
Yes.
And when the world finally caught on to their connection, people observed something different. Jennifer was not swept away by romance. She was standing firmly in herself while allowing love to approach. The public misinterpreted her steadiness as distance. They misread her boundaries as hesitation. They twisted her clarity into conflict. Then came the interview on her show, where Common expressed his admiration openly. He looked at her with a softness that made the internet buzz, a softness people weren't sure he could sustain. When he mentioned marriage, her response wasn't fear, it was wisdom. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile that gently says, "I am not rushing anywhere. If you want me, match my pace." But that pace, her pace, became the breeding ground for rumor. People claimed she was pulling back. Blogs insisted she was not fully invested. Comment sections dissected her facial expressions as if she were concealing resentment. And when the Knicks game incident happened, the stray ball knocking her glasses, critics turned a moment of clumsy chance into an omen of fracture. Every trivial moment became a magnifying glass. Every silence became a storyline. Every pause became proof. What no one realized was that Jennifer Hudson was not repeating Common's past. She was rewriting his present. She demanded presence, not poetry. Accountability, not ambiguity. Growth, not convenience. She did not shrink herself to keep the peace. She did not abandon herself to make love easier. She did not soften her standards to fit a narrative. And Common, for the first time, adjusted to the woman, not the other way round. This is what the rumors missed. Jennifer Hudson wasn't losing him. She was teaching him
For me and all of us, there is nobody like you.
how not to lose her. The rumor about Common losing interest in Jennifer didn't require a scandal to ignite. It only required memory. The public has watched him drift out of relationships so often that the mere possibility of emotional distance feels like confirmation. Before Jennifer Hudson, every relationship he entered began in brilliance. He poured words, affection, optimism, and presence into the early stages, like a man who genuinely believed each love could be his last. Yet each time, when the relationship reached the point where love demanded endurance instead of excitement, he parted ways with poetic clarity and immaculate timing. So when headlines began to appear whispering that he wasn't as invested anymore, people didn't ask for proof. They filled in the blanks with their own archive of his romantic history. The timeline didn't matter. The context didn't matter. The source didn't matter. The world already believed the ending because it had watched the trailer too many times. Anonymous posts morphed into insider reports. One awkward photo became a signal of emotional withdrawal. A week of silence turned into an imagined split. And when Common spoke glowingly about Jennifer in interviews, the public dismissed it as the same script he always reads right before the curtain closes. But this time, the assumptions were wrong, because unlike the women before her, Jennifer Hudson did not exist inside the familiar cycle. She wasn't impressed by performative affection. She wasn't swayed by public praise. She didn't offer him a place to hide inside the romantic high. She required something that his past lovers had not, the version of him that exists after the honeymoon ends. And instead of fleeing, he stayed. The rumor spread because people were looking backward. The truth remained hidden because Jennifer and Common were moving forward. And what the world interpreted as emotional decline was actually emotional evolution, a shift unfamiliar to everyone except the two people living it. The biggest twist in this story is that nothing fell apart. The lie burned quickly because it fed on old expectations, but the truth endured quietly because it was built on new foundations. Jennifer Hudson was not a temporary chapter in Common's romantic cycle. She was the line break, the pause that resets the rhythm. Her presence didn't fit the pattern because she refused to participate in anything that didn't honor her wholeness. She didn't need him to choose her for validation. She needed him to choose her from maturity. And this time he did, not with grand gestures, not with poetic flair, but with consistent alignment. He showed up. He stayed steady. He grew past the version of himself that only knew how to love in the beginning. Jennifer matched him not with fragility, but with strength, not with urgency, but with intention, not with fantasy, but with reality. Together, they formed something that confused the rumor mill, a relationship that didn't collapse under pressure, because it wasn't built on spectacle. And when Common said publicly that if he were ever to marry, Jennifer Hudson would be the woman he would choose, it wasn't a performance. It was placement. It was certainty. It was a man who has known many loves finally naming the one that feels like home. The internet kept searching for cracks. They kept rewriting the ending. They kept predicting a collapse. But the story didn't break. The cycle didn't repeat. The pattern didn't return. Because sometimes the biggest plot twist is simple. The relationship survived. Quietly, steadily, unapologetically, despite every headline written to bury it.